Here is our friend Luffy looking at his hand, gearing up to maybe punch some giant in the face. I don't know. You'll have to watch the review and find out. If you like drawings, remember to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
One Piece, Chapter 118. Someone's out there.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the epic and amazing tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, and of course the end of that volume as well, volume 13, left us with Dorry and Broggy having fought, and then afterwards Broggy giving Dorry some of the ale that was given to him by the Straw Hat Pirates. Dorry went to take a drink of it, and it exploded, once he had drank it down, and the volume pretty much ended with him thinking that it may have been Luffy, or Vivi, or one of them that had actually done that to him. So Luffy basically ends it with saying, "Hey, listen, buddy, I'm gonna have to punch you in the mouth." So that's how things end. That's right where they pick up in this volume, and we're cruising right along here on volume 14. So it starts off, and Luffy starts going toe to toe with Dorry. Obviously, Vivi is very concerned. Dorry is, this giant. I mean, 10, 15 times the size of Luffy. But of course, Luffy, is a badass in his own right, and it's not always the largest, the largest combatant that wins. So Luffy and him start going toe to toe, and again, about 6 or 8 pages is really just them fighting. And initially, it's Dorry it's Luffy kind of trying to get an edge on Dorry, and Dorry just nailing him all over the place. A couple of times, Luffy tries to gear up with a Gomu Gomu, and he's not able to get it off because he's hit with his shield, or he's punched by Dorry's. Hit with his sword a couple of times. He's finally gone and kind of whipped back into some trees, into the jungle over there, and he goes and he's able to charge himself up, and Luffy's just like, Gomu, Gomu, and he's just, boom, rocket, and he comes flying out and just nails Dorry. Now remember, Dorry's already weakened to begin with because he just had this explosive ale that already, weakened him, and probably took, who knows, maybe he's at 80%, but either way, he's not at full strength. And he just got done, fighting Broggy, and regardless of the draws, I mean, that takes a lot out of you. So he's definitely been, put through the ringer, I should say, over the last few chapters. So Luffy winds up going and hitting him with that rocket. He goes and smashes Luffy into the ground, right? And Vivi's like, oh my god, she's concerned for him. She doesn't understand the full extent of his powers, I think, yet, and that Luffy can't be harmed by these normal ways. And Dorry just kind of then falls to, he's like, oh geez, with the devil fruit powers, I should have known, or something along those lines. He kind of falls over and collapses, and is at least temporarily knocked out or knocked down. And Luffy gets up, and she's like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. How's the giant? And she goes, well, it's probably for the best. We probably couldn't have gotten him to calm down any other way. So basically, Luffy had to go and punch him in the mouth to get him to finally rest, right? So it then goes, and Luffy's pissed because he goes and he's just like, she's like, it must have been somebody else that that poisoned that ale, and he goes. She goes, because I know it wasn't the other giant, right? Because they're honor and everything else. And Luffy goes, yeah, and I know it wasn't any of my people. He knows, even though it was his ale, it wasn't anybody on his ship, or he wouldn't have poisoned him. He knows his people better than that. So it then goes and kind of takes us off into the jungle over here, and we see this small makeshift house. And then all of a sudden, who do we see walking through, approaching that house? But we see Mr. 5, Mr. Lenny Kravitz himself with the explosive booger flick, right? The Nez Palm booger. And he goes and appears, and there's this giant lizard, and he's like, you're in my way, lizard, of where I want to go. And then we see Miss Valentine, and she jumps up and she says, I've got a 10,000 kilo press, and she smashes down on the lizard, and apparently likes doing her move. So as we saw several chapters back on Whiskey Peak. So they go and they approach and get into the house, and in the house we wind up seeing Miss Goldenweek and Mr. 3. Mr. 3, and basically they've all met up there, obviously, and he's like, oh, okay, you've returned so soon. And they basically kind of go over the whole, like, Mr. 5's like, listen, we appreciate you guys, showing up and everything, and yes, we screwed up, but this is still our mission, okay? We want to take care of this. And Mr. 3's like, listen, buddy, you guys you guys are ridiculous. What happened to you and everything else. And Mr. 5's making excuses, oh, we didn't know they would have pirates helping her and this and that. And He goes, listen, man, you got to be prepared for anything. You can't just leave a bunch of corpses laying around. I mean, how unprofessional is that? Our mission needs to be completely and utterly secret, okay? I mean, seriously, you think about it, like the CIA and all that stuff. The reason that they remain covert and that there's all these different rumors going on is because you don't know for sure about shit because they clean up their mess, you know? So that's what he's trying to explain to him, is you got to clean your shit up. So anyway, he goes, so Mr. 3 says, no, we're taking over this mission, and I'll still, for you helping us, though, as a gesture of good faith, I'll still give you 30% of the, the reward for this one. And if you have a problem with that, I'll kill you both right here. Okay, Mr. 5? Okay, Miss Valentine? So clearly we can see who the, who the bigger man here is, or the more feared one, because they both kind of snap and fall in line right away. So then we go in a quick kind of turn of events over here. He goes and Mr. 3 pulls out this wanted poster and says, here, I want you to take a look at this. Boom. And it's this old, decrepit wanted poster, but it's got Dorry and Broggy on it, right? And we're like, okay, whatever. What the hell is this all about? So Mr. 3 explains that it's a 100-year-old bounty poster, but the bounty's still good and everything, right? But that Dorry and Broggy once belonged. They were once Dorry the Blue and Broggy the Red, or Dorry the Red and Broggy the Blue. I forget exactly which one. And they were basically part of this this pirate group, the giant pirate band, right? And so they had this huge bounty on their head. The bounty is 100 million berries each. Not together, 100 million each. And he says that, and I don't know if they account for inflation and everything else with these older posters, or if they just presume them to be dead, so the wanted posters haven't been getting updated, because they've been on this island fighting for 100 years. So we know this is part of that backstory. We just don't know how it ties into it. But either way, now we know that they're worth 200 million berries. Sorry about that. So, like an Austin Powers thing, $1 billion. But, so he basically says, listen, so this is we appreciate you guys screwing up there, Mr. 5, and having us get called in and brought to this island, because now we're going to bring these two in, and we're going to make a boatload of money, And Mr. 5's like, man, 200 million berries, that's crazy, right? So he goes, that's why I had you, poison his ale, or put the explosives or whatever in his ale, because in a fair fight, we can't take them out, But, remember Mr. 3 was like, hey, it's a true criminal, a mastermind, an evil assassin or what have you. Evil basically use your mind, you know what I mean? That's what really is being able to plan and use others to what, to your ends, to help make what you want, get accomplished. So that's where he's coming into play, and obviously he's a very smart thinker with things, because he's put this into plan. He's already going to weaken them. So that's what we wind up seeing with them. The chapter ends shortly after that. The last couple of pages are basically then all of a sudden the volcano erupts again, and that of course is the call to arms for Dorry and Broggy. And Broggy's still injured, because when they fight, when they go at it, I mean they injure each other, right? It just winds up being a draw, because nobody overwhelmingly wins the battle. There's no knockout, whatever. So, think of it as rounds of boxing, I guess you would say. So this volcano erupts, and Broggy's going to get up, and they're like, and Nami and Usopp are like, because this is back in his area on the other side of the island, or wherever it is, away from, Dorry. And they're like, no, you can't, your wounds and this and that. And he's like, no, I make no excuses, the call to arms, and I must go. It's the honor thing. So then Dorry, of course, over in his camp is getting up to go, and they're like, you can't, you're wounded. You just got, and of course, Luffy just punched him in the mouth there. You can't do this, you can't fight. Yeah, and he says, no, there'll be no quarter for this and that. And it's basically like this is a matter of honor. I would not make an excuse like that to not have to actually battle and to not actually fight. So for these two, there's no excuses. There's no sick day. There's no, I'm not feeling well. I'm under the weather. I stubbed my toe. I hurt my finger. My sword's not sharp enough. It's, the volcano erupts and we fight come hell or high water. And that's how it's been for this 100 years. So definitely kind of a neat thing in that aspect. So my chapter question is, and I've asked before about honor and everything else, like with Dorry and Broggy, but as far as this goes, what do you think about the whole no excuses mentality? I mean, if you were tasked to do something over and over again, we all have jobs, school, family, whatever, and there's always excuses that you wind up making, whether they're, completely legitimate or not. I mean, how many times is it like, oh, I'm kind of sick, my throat hurts a little bit, I don't want to go to school, or I don't want to go to work today, or maybe I don't want to see that person that I know I'm going to run into in that particular class, or what have you. So I guess my question is where do you lie on the scale of, as far as, is it okay? Is it acceptable sometimes when you're not feeling up to it, or you are injured, or you're sick, to make an excuse to get out of something? Or is it ultimately, honor and responsibility bound, and no matter what, you're going to go, even if you're only at 30%. So that is my question. And I know that sometimes I get a little long-winded there, but I try to put it also in the captions, or in the the little part with the info down below, so you can kind of see and I simplify it. So, because I know I can ramble. So remember to leave your answers in the comment box down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you, yes you, in the next one, nation.
Remember, brothers and sisters, to share, subscribe, spread the word of the nation to others, and of course, if you like watching the videos, watching them is always much appreciated. Have a nice day.